y'all hear that phrase, waiting? Or let's just break the word down. What about what comes to mind when you guys hear the word wait?
Patience.
Patience.
Okay. And I don't have my tablet to
Look at Facebook Live, so you don't have to tell me if somebody has a question. You said patience. What else? Anybody else?
Anticipation. Anticipation.
anticipation. Right? Anybody else?
Stop. Anybody else? Pause. Hold. What about this? Freeze. Freeze. Right? And so all of these are capture this idea of waiting. And so basically it's not moving. Staying put. Right? And that would be literal. So when we think of it in a metaphorical way, it could mean don't act. Right? And so when we put it all together and we say waiting well, what comes to mind? Patience. What else? Waiting. Think about what we talked about last week. Anxiety and
Obedient,
because waiting isn't just void of movement. It's also it's a posture. Don't you think? Waiting and trusting, waiting in peace. I think that all captures waiting well, because when we don't wait well, when we're waiting poorly, what does that look like? Pacing and on edge and things like that. So here in the text, we find someone who did not wait well. And it is by the person that I'm describing is the person of King Saul, who was the first king of Israel. We all know him as the one who David replaced. We all know him, many of us know him as the one who God rejected. But before we get to the rejection of him as king, we find ourselves in chapter, because when he gets rejected a little bit later. But here, there is a consequence that he has to serve because he didn't wait well. Okay? Here in this text, we see Saul and his army about to go to war with the Philistines. And the Philistines are some bad dudes. It would be like, basically it would be like the United States going to war with a very small country that don't have a large military. Because, we in the United States, we think we got the best military ever, right? And so the Philistines, okay, let me just paint the picture. Saul had 3,000 fighting men. 2,000 was with him, 1,000 was with his son. Okay, are you with me? And the Philistines, when they showed up, they had 30,000 chariots. Let's look at it. Look at verse 2. Saul chose for himself 3,000 men of Israel, of whom 2,000 were with him in Mishmak and in the hill country of Bethel, while 1,000 were with Jonathan. Okay, and then if you keep going down, it says that this is when the Philistines come into play. It says, now the Philistines gathered to fight against Israel, 30,000 chariots, 6,000 horsemen, and troops in multitude. Y'all see that? Like the sand on the shore. And so the Philistines are coming up against Saul, or Israel, and prior to this, he had some instructions from the prophet Samuel that he is to wait for him for 7 days so he can sacrifice and petition God before they went to war. Ooh, that's a teachable moment right there, because Samuel allows us to understand something, that before you go into something, before you go into a war, maybe we should talk to our high office, right? Before we should go into a war, before we go into anything, any kind of battle, notice that Samuel wants to sacrifice and petition God. And so he tells, prior to chapter 13, I believe it was right after it was right after Saul's initial call into the office of king. He was told that I need you to go to Gilgal and I want you to wait 7 days. Well, here it is. The Philistines has taken up their position to battle, and he was told to wait 7 days, and now he has waited the 7 days. But in the meantime, let's look at it. Let's look at what has happened. Okay, so we see here that the Philistines gathered to fight against Israel, 30,000 chariots and 6,000 horsemen and troops in multitude like the sand on the seashore. They came up and camped at Michmash, east of Beth-haven. Look at verse 6. When the men of Israel saw that they were in a tight situation, they hid in caves and thickets and cellars and in cisterns. Also, some of the Hebrews had crossed the river, the Jordan River, to the land of Gad and Gilead. As for Saul, he was still in Gilgal, and all the people followed him, trembling. And then it says, now Saul waited 7 days according to the appointed time which Samuel had set, but Samuel had not come to Gilgal, and the people were scattering away from Saul. So then it says in verse 9, so Saul said, bring me the burnt offering and the peace offering. And he offered the burnt offering. And as soon as he finished offering the burnt offering, Samuel finally came. Saul went out to meet him and to welcome him. But Samuel said, what have you done? Saul said, since I saw that people were scattering away from me, and that you did not come within the appointed time, and that the Philistines were assembling at Michmash, therefore I said, now the Philistines will come down against me at Gilgal, and I have not asked for the Lord's favor. So I forced myself to offer the burnt offering. Samuel said to Saul, you have acted foolishly. You have not kept the commandment of the Lord your God, which he commanded you, for the Lord would have established your kingdom forever, over Israel forever. So this is what has happened. He was told to wait. We're talking about waiting well. But how we're going to learn how to wait well is sometimes you can learn some things about how to do something right by looking at some people's mistakes, right? It's not always looking at somebody who did things right. Sometimes we can learn some things from looking at how people have screwed up, right? What are some? Let's start there. What are some things that we can learn from some other people's screw ups? You ever worked with somebody that screwed up bad and got fired? So what do we learn from them? Don't do that. Right? Mm-hmm. What are some other things that we can learn?
Financial.
Mm-hmm. We see that somebody else got into some financial trouble, gambling or whatever, wasting money, running up credit card bills and things like that. If you watched your parents screw up financially, you shouldn't. If you already seen that your mom or dad messed up money and things like that, what should we learn from that? Mm-hmm. Right? So we can learn a lot of things from people's mistakes. So tonight we're going to learn how to wait well by looking at the mistakes or the choices or the decisions that Saul did, how he didn't, how he waited poorly. So what we first see here when we think about waiting well is we see here that the biggest mistake that he made was, remember, he was waiting the 7 days. So here we see that he started out waiting. But then, after it got to the 7th day, he decided, I don't want to wait no more. Because Samuel hadn't gotten there yet. And it seems to me that he got delayed, or it might have been kind of like a test to see, will you be obedient? Because he is a leader, right? And so sometimes what happens with us is we'll start off good, but we don't finish good. Because guess what? It said that remember it said when he saw the army, when he seen how the people was acting, you see all the things that was going on around him. But the main thing is when he seen that Samuel hadn't came at the appointed time that he said he would, that's when he decided he wasn't going to wait anymore. And so he decides to take matters into his own hands, and he offered a sacrifice which was prohibited because he wasn't a priest. Are you seeing what I'm saying? And so what we see here, what we can learn here, is we need to learn to wait without conditions. He waited up until the 7th day, but then on the 7th day he said, I don't like the fact that he's not here yet. So the condition, so he thought, changed. So he thought, well, you know what, I might as well take matters into my own hand. How often do we do that? When things don't pop off, or when things don't happen in the lot of time that we want it to happen in, we take matters into our own hands. Don't we? We're all guilty of that. I know I am. Any questions? And so we see here, waiting was cool at first. But then after so many days, during that 7th day, he decided, I can't do this no longer. I got to act. Because of what he saw going around him. And so we see here, notice that he started off good, waiting good, but then when his patience for waiting ran out, when there was a delay, he decided, I gotta do something. And so we have to learn from his mistake. You can't get weary in waiting. But also we need to wait despite external circumstances that are going on around him. Do we see what was happening around him? It said that the people that followed him were what? Look at verse 6. When the men of Israel, let me hear it in the King. Who has the King James? You got it. Let me hear it in the New Living, if you don't mind.
Verse 6. The men of Israel saw what a tight spot they were in, and because they were hard pressed by the enemy, they tried to hide in caves, thickets, rocks, holes, and cisterns. Some of them crossed the Jordan River and escaped into the land of Gad and Gilead. Meanwhile, Saul stayed at Gilgal, and his men were trembling with fear. Saul waited there 7 days for Samuel, as Samuel had instructed him earlier, but Samuel didn't come. Saul realized that his troops were rapidly slipping away. So he demanded, bring me the burnt offering and the peace offerings.
So, okay, pause right there. So see all of that that's happening? All of that stuff that's happening around him, again, the appointed time. It was about, after he got impatient after the appointed time had came, and it seemed like to me it was still the 7th day. It just wasn't the close of the day. Maybe it was. Maybe he wanted him to come at the top of the hour. The top of the day. I don't know. Or it could have been the next day. The text is not 100% clear with that. But at the end of the day, he told him to wait until he got there. He said 7 days, but he said wait. And just because something is delayed, it does not give us the green light to move. But not only that, the external circumstances, people getting scared and scattering, right? And I don't want to be too hard on Saul, because a lot of us can find we can look at Saul and see some of the same characteristics in our own lives. We're looking at a situation and it looks like, oh my God, I started off with this army. We're already outnumbered. We're already outnumbered, and now people are scattering. People scared. It makes you want to act, right? And so we can't get weary, and we can't allow external circumstances to cause us to get out of position. What somebody else is doing. And so not only that, waiting, what about the internal circumstances? That's a big one with most of us. The internal struggles that goes on with us. I'm talking about worry. The anxiety that goes on in us. Especially when we're facing, because he's facing a big circumstance, right? Can you imagine going outside and letting people ready to jump you? Can you imagine how your heart will be beating up out of your chest? But despite all of that, he was told to wait. He was told to wait. And sometimes we move because our emotions are all over the place. We worry, we scared, we're fearful. And when we're all over a place, when we're allowing our emotions to drive us, we are bound to make horrible mistakes. I don't know about you, how many times have you regretted a decision that you made because you was impulsive? And maybe it wasn't worry or fear. Maybe you felt like, I love her, or I love him, and you jump, get married to somebody, and then you find out 6 months later, they're crazy. She said, right? Sometimes it's external. Sometimes we allow other people and the things that's going around us cause us to get out of position. Sometimes people piss us off, like on your job. Lord ain't told you to move from that job, but because somebody's pissing you off, I'm out of here. I'm done here. We leave jobs, we leave churches, we leave all kinds, we leave marriages because of what somebody else done. How they acted. How they performed. Right? I ain't gotta take this. He talking crazy, decent. But then, our biggest enemy is ourselves. Is that internal struggle that goes on inside of us. That, that impatient that whispers in our ear, you gotta do something. You gotta do something. That's what impatience says to us. Do something, fool. You just gonna sit here? Impatience is whispering, he ain't coming, Saul. If he was coming, he would have been here. Do something. Why are you waiting for him, Saul? That's what impatience is talking. Why are you waiting for him? Do you see these people leaving you? Before long, you ain't gonna have nobody. Samuel must not have known what he was talking about, because if he knew what he was talking about, or if he cared, he would have been here. How often do impatience talk to us? Every day. You the king, Saul. He's just the prophet. He's the priest. You the king. Take matters into your own hand. You're a leader. Even if that means you have to do something that God prohibits, do it anyway. Because do you see all that's going on? And everybody's scared, and you scared yourself. You better do something. Any questions? And so, another thing that we should look at when waiting, trying to wait well, is we got to wait, resisting the urge to act under pressure, just like I was just saying, with impatience in your ear, constantly telling you you need to do something. Resisting the urge to act under pressure. Can we say worry is a pressure? I know it is, because you know what? It robs us of sleep. It robs us of appetite. Basically, worry controls us just like drugs control an addict. Because we can't. I mean, last week we learned how to remedy it. But most of the time, if we don't do it God's way, it's hard to shake it. Now, sometimes we use other things to cope with it, right? I think I shared last week, last week I said I binge watch TV when I got a lot on my mind and I'm worrying about something, and I do it to escape. So the question becomes, what are you doing to escape? We talked about that last week. And so we have to resist the urge to act under pressure. Worry is pressure. Anxiety is pressure. Uncertainty is pressure. Who likes uncertainty? I need to know. I need to know A, B, and C. And sometimes when we're in transition or the Lord is leading us down a path, sometimes He doesn't give us every detail all at once. Remember in Bible study I was talking about when in 1 Samuel chapter 16, when he was sending the prophet Samuel to the house of Jesse to anoint the next king of Israel, he told him where to go, what city or town. He told him whose house to go to. He told him the father's name, but he never told him which son it was going to be. But despite him not having all of that detail, he still was required to move. And sometimes what I have shared then is sometimes we don't want to move until we have all the exact details, one after the other. But sometimes we're in a season where we are not going to always have all the details, but what we must do is you must act on what the details that you have already. Because God revealed who it was, but He didn't reveal who it was until He got to the house. He didn't reveal it where he was at when he first got the information. He didn't even reveal it on the journey there. He only revealed it after he got there. And so sometimes uncertainty feels weird to us. It feels like a weight. It's something that we can't shake because we're always trying to figure things out. And what I would say is what we struggle with really is control. Is that a fair statement? We do not like to feel like we are not in control. Is it just me? We have to control everything. When we traveling and a couple of my family members, we share a room, they have to be so much in control that they have to control the remote.
Oh, dang.
And sometimes you're controlling the remote and you don't want nobody else
To have it, but you sleep. But as soon as somebody try to ease it out your hand, I'm watching that. It's like you have to be in control of everything. Right? Question. And so we have to, waiting is resisting the urge to act under pressure. And so we have to be careful not to cave to pressure. Because then, when we cave to it, basically what we're doing is we're taking matters into our own hand. And guess what? He messed up. He messed up. And it cost him. Not waiting caused him to misstep. So sometimes we have to, let's think about some things. What have I done out of impulse or impatience? What has it cost me? Because his consequence was far reaching. Because he lost his, at this point, he didn't lose his role as king, but a king, when you think, okay, think about Buckingham Palace in London. you know that there was Queen Elizabeth when she died. Well, before she became queen, her father was king. He didn't have any sons, so she became queen. After she died, her son Charles became king, and when he passes away, William would become king. So it was in the family. But when he did this, and he did what was unlawful because he was impulsive and he was impatient, and he refused to continue to wait like he was told, he lost his dynasty. Meaning that after him, there will be nobody else from his family that will sit in that role. And sometimes what happens to us is our decisions don't just affect us, but it affects other people after us. This isn't going to be a long lesson tonight. We're about done. And so what we see here from his mistakes is he caved under pressure. He took things into his own hands, and he screwed up royally. And what we need to draw from this is there's going to be situations where we're going to be in a process to where we're going to have to wait. And we can't allow what other people, their actions, what they're doing or not, what they are doing or not doing to affect us or to cause us to move out of turn. We have to make sure that we don't allow our internal struggles to cause us to move prematurely. I'm not going to say that you're not going to get fearful. I'm not going to say that you're not going to have some anxiety is going to come. But we need to learn to care. If we're going to have the anxiety, we can't allow it for us to cave underneath it. We have to do what we were taught last week. Remember? Pray. What else did we learn? Of how to remedy anxiety. It's not just prayer, but it's petition, what you said, prayer, and we have to wrap our prayers with thanksgiving and supplication. And it was that word supplication. Prayer is, and I don't want to call it regular prayer and supplication, but to kind of make the difference. Prayer is like we would pray daily. Think about when nothing's really going on. Thank you, Lord, for waking me up this morning. Thank you, Lord. Lord, I want you to wrap your arms around those in the hospital. Lord, I want you to protect the kids and protect my going and coming and all that. But when we think about supplication, that's when, Lord, please, I'm pleading with you. I need you, Lord. I need you to come and help me in this situation. There's a difference between supplication and prayer. Supplication is basically pleading and begging, crying out. You ever had a situation where you had to plead and beg and cry out?
Sure, yes.
I'm talking about ugly cry, snot everywhere. You ain't worried about your hair, you ain't worried about nothing. You going to town, right? But not only that, with all the prayer and the supplication, and it says with thanksgiving, right? We need all of that when we go to God. And then when we go to God, then it talks about his peace that surpasses all understanding, meaning that the situation may not be fixed yet, but you have a peace about it. And I think that's where we're going to land here. You have to wait well with trusting God. Trusting. That's how we wait well. We wait well through trusting God. Trusting the process, no matter what it looks like. Trust and don't move. And then if worry and anxiety come up, we know the remedy. And so as we move forward, we have to learn to wait well. I'm reminded, maybe I'll teach on this, I'm reminded of when Noah was in the ark. Remember, he was in the ark for 40 days and 40 nights, right? He actually was in there longer than that. It rained for 40 days and 40 nights. He was in there, I don't want to quote the amount, he was in there months. Because although it said 40 days and 40 nights, I automatically think that after the 40th day, he was going to be able to get out the ark. No, there was a waiting period. And see, the thing about it is, if we read it, I might teach on it. The thing about it, if you go and read it, the thing about it is God never told him that there was going to be months of waiting for the water to recede. All he was telling him, and I'm hoping I'm quoting this right, all he was telling him was it was going to go into the ark. He told him what to take into the ark, and he said it was going to rain for 40 days and 40 nights. I don't know about you, but I would have thought that after the 40th day, when the sun came out, we was going to be able to get out. No, there was months. I want to say it was almost 6 months, 8 months, something like that. But he waited. And guess what he did? He tested it. He would send out a dove to see if the waters were gone and things like that. And eventually, first time he did it, the dove came back and whatever he had in it, I don't want to quote too much of it because I want to make sure I'm right. But he sent the dove out, and when the dove came back, and he understood that the waters were still there. It wasn't until I don't know if it was the second or maybe it might have been the third time, don't quote me, but when he sent it out again, that last time, he didn't return, which is an indication that the waters had dried up. But here's the thing, Noah didn't come off that ark until the Lord told him to. And sometimes, wouldn't y'all gotten tired on that ark? I'd have been like, now wait a minute, you said 40 days and 40 nights, we still in here. And think about this, he's on there with all them animals. So you know, where they going to the bathroom at? So can you imagine in that situation? But guess what, he waited. But if he would have jumped too prematurely, guess what would have happened? He would have drowned. Right. And so we have to learn, as the body of Christ, we have to learn to wait well. Any questions? Any questions? Well, that's